Greetings and welcome everybody to our session Using Technology to Broaden Worldviews with Dr. Melissa Collins and Mr. Michael Dunlea. I'm Margaret Johnson, the content manager for Harm. Before we begin, please mute yourselves and turn off cameras. We have a section planned where we'll send you out rooms and we'll ask you to turn on your cameras again and mic so you can engage with your. We will record this session except the breakout rooms, and you can access this recording from your virtual attendee hub. We've also provided you a note catcher document located in the session description on the attendee hub. This resource will serve two purposes: to guide your learning during the session and discussion prompts in the breakout. Please use the chat box for questions and comments, and we'll be checking in with you often. It's my pleasure to introduce our speakers today. We're ending the day with two outstanding teachers, Dr. Melissa Collins, she is from Memphis, and Mr. Michael Dunlea, who is located in Tabernacle, New Jersey. I hope I said that right. Each of the speakers' bios are in the event platform. Please look at your convenience. Welcome, Melissa and Michael, and to everybody that's in our final session. Let's get started.
Well, thank you very much, Margaret, for having us. Melissa, would you like to say hello?
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining our session this evening.
We hope that you'll enjoy our presentation this evening and walk away with several things that you can apply to your classrooms or your schools or your districts. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to be sharing with you how to use technology to broaden worldviews. So I am Michael Dunlea and I teach third grade in southern rural New Jersey. I live along the coast, but I work about 20-30 minutes in from the ocean. And Melissa?
My name is Melissa Collins. I'm a second grade teacher in Memphis, Tennessee, and I teach 20 Black and Brown students.
I should probably point out that this is my 18th year of teaching, and overwhelmingly my classes have been homogeneous and white. Very few students of color have I had in my classroom, and that will be an important piece of information as you find from our experience that we share with you tonight. So our objectives this evening are to create a classroom culture that focuses on empathy, compassion, and respect. We're going to be showing you how to maximize the Harmony SEL platform and its resources and how we've been able to implement them in our classroom experience, and to learn some strategies on how you can foster relationships and connect with diverse groups of students, especially if you don't have the diversity as I don't and as Dr. Collins doesn't. And we're also going to be sharing with you platforms that we've used in order to make connections with classrooms from around the world.
Okay, and just a few norms for this evening. We want to make sure everyone's voice is heard. Speak your truth. Listen actively to peers. Please share your ideals. Say it now in this room because this is a safe space for us to have a difficult conversation. Right now in America, there are 50,700,000 students currently enrolled in public elementary and secondary school in the United States.
And when we look at the population and the demographics, we find that right now in 2017, the white students represented 47.5% of the student population. And you can see our Black and Brown students are represented in the 14.9% and the 26.7%. But what's really interesting is what's forecasted to happen in the student population estimation for 2029. You can see how the population of white students is beginning to reduce and go down, and the diverse and no longer be the majority. So that is something that is a very powerful piece of data that we have found in our classrooms, right, Dr. Collins, that has really been an important factor.
Absolutely. So we know as we continue to move, Michael, we have to really make sure that we get kids to talk to people that look different than them if we want to impact change in our world today.
Yeah, one of our big jobs is to prepare students for the world. And if they don't know how to engage with people who are different from them, then we've failed them.
Absolutely. So right now, I would like to introduce a couple of classroom norms that Michael and I have as we work with each other. So we tell the students it's important for students to be explicit about how they should respect others. So they need to respect their peers. It's also important that you get students to establish rules. It's very important that student ownership is present in your classroom. It's important for students to also share their ideals, and it's very important for Michael and I to discuss self-awareness, self-management, relationship skills, and decision-making. So we try to implement all these things in our classroom to make sure that our students understand each other. So we want to make sure that we spark empathy, curiosity, and creativity among each other.
Yeah, I was going to add, Dr. Collins, that empathy plays such an important role in almost all of this. It doesn't come natural. You definitely need to take the time to, as you said, be explicit and to say, how would you feel if? You know, something that you immediately pick up on is that Dr. Collins has a Southern accent, I have a Northern accent.
Mhm.
And so for our students, it's going to be different. And so we need to show them what's the proper way to react to something that's different and not offend somebody with that reaction. So that's the first step.
And right now, we're going to look at how we use Harmony SEL in our classroom, and we would like to invite you to use it as well. Right now, if you go to the website, Harmony SEL, this is how the platform will be used. And what Michael and I like is what, Michael?
Well, we were going to quickly go over.
Yes, it's a
Right.
free platform. Mhm.
So it's a free platform, and what it has is 5 units. So this is my grade 3 dashboard view, and it's so diversity and inclusion. And while we've used this in our classrooms combined when we've gotten together, and the providing opportunities for students to get to know each other has been a really useful tool as part of this website. The second unit, which is empathy and critical thinking overview, just a quick look in here, developing the empathy has been super helpful, what we have found here, as well as reducing stereotyped thinking. But what's interesting is the younger you get with your students, you're not reducing stereotype thinking as much as you're preventing it, which is really a powerful lever. The third unit is communication overview. The developing effective ways of engaging with each other, because we have our students working very closely with each other. The fourth one is problem solving. And the fifth unit is peer relationships, which is really powerful again when we're focusing on the social and emotional needs of our students, especially during a pandemic. We've seen the need for that to go way high, and the platform has been super helpful, and we use it quite frequently. And so we identify the qualities of important friendships.
Yes, and so when you go to the website, we would like for you to pay attention to the everyday practices and how you can implement it in your classroom. And so later on, I will talk about the Harmony goals and how you can develop goals with your classroom. And Michael and I have done that with our students so they understand how to work with each other and work with other people and why it's important to work with a diverse population. We also use meetup time, which we do it as a whole class when we meet on the platform that we use now is Zoom. So even though Michael and I are working virtually, we still use that time to work with each other as a whole group. And then we use buddy up time where they work in the breakout rooms using the quick connection cards. And that absolutely drives a great conversation. And our students, they adore buddy up time. And so here, if you will look at a buddy up overview and how to use it. And here you can see how it helps to build a community where students collaborate and have a great conversation. And with Michael and I, it's very important that we try to connect our students beyond the classroom, right? And so you want to take that opportunity where you can have students present and discuss their harmony goals with other classrooms. So Michael class present to me and my class present to Michael class. We also think about how we can have we can use the activities during buddy up time. And we use Flipgrid to create short online videos, which we will share with you later.
And we're going to share now one of the products that we created, right, Dr. Collins? The
Right. This is the kindness contract, right? And so we did this on last year, but we also have done it virtually, but this is the one we did last year. And it's special to us because we worked on this contract together. And then Michael class signed, if you see in orange, he sent me this contract all the way from New Jersey to Tennessee. No, his class is in purple. Mine is
That's right.
I'm sorry. And then my kids signed. And then once we had that solidarity, we wanted them to see solidarity, we post that poster in each one of our classrooms. Right. And our kids, they loved it. They loved how they collaborate on this project together.
And they wrote this pledge themselves. I mean, we wrote it for them on the chart paper, but they're the ones that came up with the words for it. And so you can see, I pledge allegiance to kindness. I promise to be kind, not mean, spread kindness and empathy everywhere. But these are their words and then their signatures. And I think it was really important that we each had this copy in our classrooms, Dr. Collins. It kind of brought us closer.
Yes, yes. And this is just an example of how you can go about creating harmony goals with your students and going beyond the classroom.
And thank you, Jessica. I just read your comment in the chat box. So we're going to share a little bit more about the connections that we've made between our two classes that are so vastly different and how we've been able to even connect them to a larger audience.
Yes.
So this is one of the things that we were able to do. We created a global readathon last spring when we had to go virtual, and we were able to invite teachers who came on and read to our students over the course of 3 days. It was only about an hour each day. So we had 3 or 4 readers a day. And we had South Africa, Poland, India, Bangladesh, Ireland, and Hawaii. And I believe, was it Vermont that joined us? So we had a couple of the states as well. And they would come on and they would read one of their favorite stories and then talk to the students about what time it was, the weather, and the culture of wherever they were calling in from.
Yes, that was an absolutely great event for our students. Just hearing those different books from different cultures. I liked how we heard some books that came from Africa and Ireland. It was awesome, Michael. And on last year, we didn't want last school year when the pandemic hit, we wanted to think about a way to really bring our classrooms together. And so we created One Band, One Sound, which was a global project because we wanted to bring unity. Music is a universal language. And so the kids learned about physics and how to produce sound and how things must vibrate. And when I go out of the country or anywhere in the United States, I'm always picking up an instrument to share with my students and to just think about a way to bring in a different perspective. And I talk to them about how people use the land to create sound. So Michael in our class, we led this project and the students use items from home because we want to think about cost efficient, and they made instruments. And then we came together in a virtual space and we became One Band, One Sound. And also other countries and other schools were involved. It was an exciting time for our students. And we're going to do this project again on Earth Day. So we hope some of you will join us April the 22nd.
And, you know, Dr. Collins, we talk about building connections outside the classroom or outside of your environment, community, but you and I both involved our art teachers and our music teachers in this as well. So it
Yes,
was even just, bringing in your colleagues from your own environments.
right.
Another way that we were able to connect with a larger and more diverse audience was by actually using the parents from our classes. This is a gentleman who was the father of one of my students, and he's the health officer for the town of Princeton here in New Jersey. And so he came on at the beginning of the pandemic to explain to the children what they were doing, the science of it, the math of it, and why we were really being safe by being at home at that time. But I also had another student's parent who is involved in the military, and they came on and they were able to share with the students the different things that the military were doing in order to keep them safe and the country safe. And so it was a way to kind of involve the families and extend beyond. And it made sense, right? When you think about it, our classrooms became their homes. So they became part of the teaching as well.
Right. And so here we had a virtual lunch. And so I invited a chef from Memphis, and the kids made sandwiches, salads, and strawberry shortcakes. And we did this together, Michael and I class. And so it gave us an opportunity to address SEL. And we learned a lot from our kids during this activity. For example, one of my students did not have the items. And he was like, I'm sad. And I asked him why. His mother was a nurse. And so I went to purchase those items for him and took him to his house. And he was ready for our virtual lunch. So that's just another way that we involved our classes.
And is there any better way than to break bread, bringing together,
Right,
classes?
Michael.
And I mean, we've been talking about how segregated our country has become, worse than in the 50s and 60s. And here you have very separated kids, and they were able to come together and share an experience and share a meal. And it was hands-on, and it was science, it was math, it was measurement, and it was
Reading,
good.
yes. And
Yeah,
food. I
reading.
love food. Food touches my soul. I'm a foodie.
And it was great to see the pride in all their faces when they created something, and it even brought in the term of assessment, because they knew that if it tasted good, then they had followed the directions well, and that was a great way to give them authentic assessment. And so we have staying connected. Melissa, this is yours as well, because it's your cousin.
Yes, my cousin Jerome Collins is a member from Straight No Chaser. And again, I love music. And so that's a way to touch the heart, right? And so he came on and he sang songs to the kids, and they sang as well. It's just an awesome time for us to get together. And they also was able to ask him questions.
And what's really pretty about, or pretty beautiful actually, about this picture is that you see an integrated class right now. You see children that are white, you see children that are black, but they're not in the same classroom, they're not on the same class roster. But by our collaboration, they are together and they have become friends and they've become one group.
Yes. And Michael, thanks again for allowing me to be in that space, because I never taught white students before. And these are actually absolutely my babies, and I'm loving our connection, our relationship. It's been about what, 3-4 years?
It
4.
has been. And
Yeah.
as a white educator, you have been so helpful to me in learning how to address my own biases and to find out how much I needed to learn and grow, and to be there for all of my students, not just my students of color, but all of them. So it's been a powerfully transformative experience that we've been able to experience together on this journey.
Yes. And here in Memphis, we're seeing the Peace Sign Project. It's another project that we created where the kids created signs with words, just giving a message of what they want to see in the world. And so we had Dora from the National Civil Rights Museum on this day, where she talked about the civil rights movements and the Jim Crow laws, and just giving the kids some context about why our connection, our relationship is so important. And if you look on the screen, that's Michael's kids, and we were getting ready to march together. We were showing unity. And so Michael ended up getting his whole entire district to participate. And I ended up getting my kids in my building to participate. And we had kids across the world, Michael, join us in this relationship, this connection. And I had to do something bold and courageous. I contacted the National Civil Rights Museum, and we took that to the museum. My kids led the first ever Children March. And look at those babies, Michael. We are really changing lives.
Yeah, well, they've changed my life, that's for sure.
Yes. If somebody mentioned unity and harmony, yes.
And you know what's interesting too is that we were able, what was really fun using technology as part of our presentation, we went Facebook Live while we did that
Yes.
march. So even though there's an hour difference and so much that separates us, we were able to simultaneously march live through our two schools on Facebook, shared screen, and shared it with the world. And as you said, it went around the world. So it was
It
really
went around the world.
incredible.
And our babies led. They did it.
And I
And
think it's, you want to
it-
tell, I have to say that my white students have never experienced something like this ever. And they learned so much from Dr. Collins, and it became a much more emotional response to something because now it affected their friends.
right. And if you see my students, my babies, I had them to put on their Sunday best because I told them that's how they did in the civil rights movement. They marched with pride and they wanted people to respect them. And I was so happy that Michael's students joined in with us as well. And I'm gonna tell you, my students were nervous. Some of them cried that day. Like Emma with that I Have a Dream. And I said, Emma, you're here for a reason. You're here to change lives. So march, baby, like Coretta and Martin. And boy, they did. They were so happy and proud that day. I think
So
I'm
we're
gonna wrap it
also
up. So keep going.
Dr. Collins in the waterworks. So
I-
another platform that we're going to share with you is Impatico. It is, I think it's currently still kindergarten to sixth grade. However, the resources that they have available are, I believe, universally usable. And so Impatico is a free platform, and it's where we've, very similar to what we've been doing with Harmony, where we combine our classes together. And here you see one of my students is reading to Dr. Collins's class, but you can see my class is on the right side, shared screen. But we took it further and we made it one-to-one. And so here's my student Ethan with his pen pal. They start as pen pals, then they meet virtually through Zoom or through Empatico's platform, and then they become friends. They read to one another, they check in during our self-selected reading time. It's built into the schedule. And they become real friends with each other. And at the end, they even do a biography on each other. Here's Abigail and her pen pal.
Yes.
And so these are, and even the teachers bond, right, Dr. Collins?
We are bonding. I tell everyone in Michael's house, including his wife, I love him to death, and his wife is okay with it. I mean, I have a wonderful family right now.
My daughter, she wants to go live with you, right? My
Yes, she does. She
17-year-old,
wants
she
her
loves
mother.
it,
Yes, I'm the second mother. Yes.
right? So it's a great relationship that extends well beyond even the students.
Right.
And so now we have you can go ahead and frame the question, Dr. Collins, for the chat.
Oh, no. So here's our question. We just want you to reflect because we know it's a lot to take in right now, even for me, right? So do students benefit from working with peers who are different? And how do teachers benefit? So if you would, we know that this session is called Power of Engagement. And so it's not just about us, but about you as well. And we want that growth. So please put your response in the chat box.
And now it's that wait time that we always struggle with as teachers. Isn't it one of the hardest things?
It is hard, Michael.
In my observation, it said I needed to give more wait time.
Yes. And then we're always planning.
One of the reasons why we've included this question is that I grew up in a very non-diverse community and went through school having never had a Black teacher or friends that were anything other than white and Christian. And so it was, and it's ironic because New Jersey is one of the most diverse places you can find, and yet it's highly segregated, as you will find in, I think, a lot of the parts of the country.
Yes. We
Yeah,
have
that's
a
great.
great conversation going in the chat box, and I hope everyone is looking at everybody's conversation. Is awesome. A lot of them say yes, Michael. Someone say building friendship with others and hearing their real life stories is a gift. I agree. It is an advantage for students to meet and work with other students. It helps to develop other perspective. Yes, yes.
You know, it's interesting when
Empathy is the base of peace. Yes.
when we've had these conversations before the global pandemic, uh, it was so wild because the people who are most uncomfortable talking about race are people who have not been in diverse communities.
Right.
You know, it's like they don't know how to have the conversation because they've had no experience with anyone who's different.
And what made us really connect, because I can just recall 4 years ago, and we were meeting, with our classes and not really thinking about the continuation of the relationship, but we knew we had to continue it because I was like, oh, my class is all Black, and he was like, my
Mhm.
class is all white. And it's like, look, this is not good. And I enter my classroom, room 8, looking at the Black and brown kids. I had a couple brown kids just here and there for so many years. And I was like, I have to do something differently. I just have to raise the future generation to really be change agents.
Yeah.
So let's continue, Michael. Oh, this is one of my favorite quotes. Racism is a grown-up disease, and we must stop using our children to spread it. Michael, I really believe in this. And I can see it with our children. Children are not born to be racist.
Mm-mm.
Racist. They're taught that. And it makes me think about when one of my children asked me, when did racism end? And I had to pause because I had to give the right answer. And I said, baby, racism has not ended, but it can end with you.
And Belinda's asked a question. She wants to know how we got to pick each other. And so Dr. Collins and I met each other in a National Teacher Fellowship and became friends through that. And then through one of the things that we're going to share tonight, a global project, a climate action project, was when we were working together, and we had that kind of lightning bolt, right, Dr. Collins, where it was like, wait, here we
Yes.
are, we're trying to fix climate change, but her class is all Black, mine's all white, and we're separated by 1,000 miles and a whole lot of prejudice. So how do we overcome that, and how can we start to fix that? And so it was that relationship that we've really been able to build.
Yes. So a question right now. How diverse are your classrooms, districts, or communities? And you can rate it 1 to 5. 5 is very diverse because we're always curious as we come together in spaces as these, as such as this one.
And you can just put it in the chat box. So some of you are very diverse.
Okay.
Oh, Alaska. Okay, cool. Wow, that's really interesting how even our attendees are so diverse in where they are calling in from. Yeah, I think I better put my 1 in there too.
My 1.
We gotta
Yeah,
count
but I
that.
like this. A lot of diverse communities, classrooms. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's very interesting to see the group and how they'll interact with our presentation.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing, everyone. And so now we're going to look at the outcomes. And we just want you to see the impacts. We want you to get a chance to experience what we experienced. So here are a couple of writings from Michael and our classrooms where we just wanted to know, what do you think about your friend? And I'm just going to move through these quickly because we have other things to show you. My friend is a sweetheart because everything we talk about is sweet. I like that one. Next one, Michael. People can make friends with a different race by meeting new people and see what you have in common. Check out that word common.
It became a mini lesson, I guarantee you, I promise.
Yes, with Dr. Collins and Mike.
It might be good to remind everyone that we're 2nd and 3rd grade teachers.
Yes, my parents said, I'm glad you have a friend that is not your skin color, so you can learn about different people.
Oops.
Not like that bubble. The cure to racism, listen to the babies, is to be with each other. Racism exists because of people's skin color.
It's so powerful, and it's so difficult sometimes to keep our emotions in check. We're going to share with you what is perhaps one of the most magical moments of my teaching, and I'm sure yours, Dr. Collins. We were able to secure some grant money and bring together and surprise 2 of our little girl pen pals.
And this was for a professional where everyone was surprised at what was happening, except my parents, and our students' parents, knew about the surprise, but not the participants. And it was
the girls.
amazing.
And you can see here, we were on Impatico at the time. So we were modeling Impatico for the teachers that were in the room. And that's the Memphis class there. Dr. Collins was up surprising, my kids. And then in walked the pen pal. And over here, you see, they don't say my black friend, my white friend. It's my New Jersey friend, and it's my Memphis friend. So again, it's that. Go ahead, Dr. Collins.
Yes. More surprises. Let's look at some more outcomes.
So there's the 2 pen pals, and they had a great weekend together. And you're going to listen to a brief, short interview with my student Cassidy when she was getting ready to write her biography about what they had in common and what they, how they were different.
What are some things about you and Whitney that are different?
We're different because my color is teal and her favorite color is pink. And well, obviously I know her birthday is different than mine.
And so when she said my color, I thought for sure she was going to say white and Whitney was black. But in her mind, in her 8-year-old beautiful mind, it was teal and pink. It was your favorite.
And they are still friends today. And Michael and I still meet with these kids. They're older now. I told them they looking older, not us. So we still collaborate with these babies. And Emma and Cassidy still write each other today.
That's right. And so
I love this.
Yeah.
Yes, so here's an example of what we talked about, Harmony SEL, making videos. So we used Flipgrid this year to have our virtual peace sign project.
For everyone.
I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood.
I have a dream that everyone will be a part of the brotherhood and we all will be treated equally.
There should be peace in the world. We want this to end with all the disrespectfulness. We all want this to end. I have a dream that everyone will be kind.
Despite what we have seen on TV, hate does not make America great. Love each other, be kind, make America great by stopping the hate.
Peace is kindness. Our differences make us unique. But we are all human. Everyone deserves respect and kindness.
Hi, my name is London and I have a dream to end racism and just love. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Michael is, I'm just over here in tears because I just see the connection and the power and how what we're talking about in the country, systemic racism. And we know these babies are seeing the social unjust, and this is just so powerful. And every time I see it, yes, it is completely breathtaking. And I'm always crying. So next slide.
But I will say that, Dr. Collins, what's really difficult is after George Floyd, how much their dreams have shifted and become, it was so painful and difficult as a white educator to hear your students say, let Black Lives Matter. Why can't you understand that Black Lives Matter? And they're begging for their lives to matter. And I believe that that is what we're having the impact here.
Yeah.
So all of the work that we've been doing has been able to, we use social media to try to share out what we do, to try to encourage others to have these types of experiences in their classrooms. And we were featured on the NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt on Martin Luther King's birthday last year. This is a 1-minute video, and we're still good on time here, Dr. Collins. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this, and they'll be able to see it.
Okay.
I've been to the mountaintop.
In the same city where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed, these Memphis second graders are keeping his legacy alive.
I have a dream that one day
all people will have equal rights, that people will be joyful,
That there be peace and love, not hate.
More than 1,000 miles north, these New Jersey students are learning the same lessons.
I, Easton, have a dream that everyone will be friends, that everyone can be treated fairly.
Big dreams for these little kids. Thanks to a free video program, these schools, both in highly segregated communities, are working together.
What do you see that you have in common with the kids here in Memphis?
We're both people and we need to be treated the same.
Teachers in both schools collaborating almost every day on projects that build racial understanding.
When I heard them talk about their dreams, they're my dreams too.
We don't just label them for the color of their skin.
And they don't label you that way either.
At this tender age, color doesn't divide them.
In my adult mind, the word color is so much more complicated. In a 7 or 8 year old's mind, it's about their favorite crayon.
Decades ago, Dr. King led a movement. Now these kids are part of it.
We shall overcome.
Rahima Ellis, NBC News, Memphis.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button.
So Dr. Collins, I'll hand this to you.
Yeah, and I'm always crying at an emotional state. Okay, so here on 2 years ago, I love Michael's class and those babies in Tabernacle, New Jersey. And I would surprise them a lot. I surprised them a lot. I guess it was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And one of the babies, she ended up inviting me to the end of the year swimming party for her class. And I had to go. I had to make sure I could be there for her requests. And so what was so special about this moment is not only seeing the students again, but meeting their families. And they made me feel so, I felt the love, Michael, I really did. And I knew they were surprised too, maybe, to see how much their kids loved me. Like they could see that in person, their reaction. And look, I got a little wet. I didn't want to get in the water, but they splashed water on me and just had a great time. And I was planning on going there last school year,
I know,
but the pandemic happened. And I just want this pandemic to be over so we can continue to build on those relationships in Tabernacle.
Right. So the power of this work of getting together and working with classrooms from around the world, we're changing not just our students, but their families. And like you said, Dr. Collins, what I was watching the parents when the kids ran up and hugged you. And I could see a lot of their faces just taking in the rawness of the affection that they had for you.
Right.
And it made me think, do they have anyone in their life that looks like you that they felt that way for? And
Right.
it makes them question their own lives and the lack of diversity that may or may not exist in their lives. I don't want to paint them all in that light, but
Right.
we live in a
But I
segregated
felt
area.
comfortable because I guess how the children reacted. I really felt well received with the family. I'm sure it was different for some, but I really felt respected, and I was happy to make that wish come true.
I think you made a big impact. And the same grant was used to get myself and my co-teacher, who I don't want to leave out of this, but Stacy Delaney and I were able to come down and surprise your students on their field trip to the Museum of Civil Rights. And
Mhm.
it was, again, it was raw affection.
And you can see how excited their eyes and they're touching their chest. They're so excited. A lot of surprises that year.
And now we're going to share some resources.
Yes. So on what you can do, you can visit empatico.org to be able to use that platform to connect with a class room that is different. You can put in that request. Empatico is great. You can get a class that's either in the United States or outside the United States.
I think it's 120 countries they're in. The second image here, if you're not familiar with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, it's 17 goals that were established in the year 2015 with a goal of achieving them by 2030. And you can see they're pretty big. It's ending poverty and hunger, good health, quality education. But what's so wonderful is all the things that we do, like when we were involved with the Climate Action Project, it was 13, but then I believe it was innovation and also the responsible consumption. That goes back to that one band, one sound, and
Yes.
the reducing inequality. So you can really use this as a framework for all of the different connections and branchings out.
And then the Climate Change Action Project, that's how we brought our classes together. Not our first time meeting each other, but our classes. And this happens normally around in October. And they have lessons and different ways that you can implement the Climate Action Project. And how many, Michael? It was several countries that were
270 countries
participated?
were participating. It was wild, and we were able to interact with so many different students and teachers from around the world.
Yes, and that's just a way too to connect with another class that's different than your class.
And using Skype in the classroom was another platform. It's like Zoom, of course, you could use either one, but we were able to, as part of the climate action, interact with Celine Cousteau, which is the granddaughter of Jacques Cousteau. She's a documentarian. And Richard Hyman is a former diver on the Calypso with Jacques Cousteau. And so he brought in the whole impact of the oceans and climate change. And Dr. Jennifer Languel from the, I believe it's the Earth Planet or Discovery Planet channel, and she was talking about sustainable cities in Florida. But you're able to bring in experts. And we also were able to connect with Canada, Austria, Bangladesh, Ireland as part of this, and states. So we knew teachers in Minnesota, of course, there's Tennessee and Vermont.
Yes. And then Michael and I, we love Skype of Scientists, which is another free platform where you can sign up with various STEM professionals. You can request it. They also are big with SEL this year. And of course, with the pandemic, so they have psychologists and psychiatrists, excuse, that you can talk to. And so Michael and I sometimes bring our classes together, or we do it individually, and we get the children an opportunity to ask questions. And this gives them an opportunity to look at someone that's different than them. You can request women in STEM, and you can also request STEM professionals of color.
And I know we've discussed, Dr. Collins, you and I personally and in other sessions, the importance of students seeing themselves in the front of the classroom. And we know how impactful that can be. and
Yes.
also in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and math. But I often argue that it is equally important for white students to see the same diversity in the front of the classroom as well. Because going back to one of those things was about the stereotypes, right? Changing stereotypes.
Yes.
And actually, I have one of these scheduled for tomorrow morning. I'm so excited. It's a microbiologist from the Arctic.
Oh, if they're good, I would love to
I
hear
will pass
that.
them along, yeah.
Yep, pass them along.
So here is our contact information. So we would love to connect with anyone that's in this session. It's one of the first things that you can do to start building a wider circle. We have our emails here and also our Twitter. So feel free to take a picture of this, or I think these are going to be available to everyone later. So you can keep in touch with us. We would be happy to help you as you begin to implement anything that you might have seen today, or any resource that you would like to hear more about.
So please stay in touch. Okay.
And Dr. Collins, do you want to frame the breakout room conversation?
Yes. Well, you can go ahead, Michael, because you're gonna
Okay.
put.
All right.
That's fine.
So we're going to be going into breakout rooms, and we ask that everyone turn on your cameras and your microphones when you get there, so that you can make it more engaging. And take a moment to introduce yourself. It's the first part of where you can begin to expand your connections, and you may be able to take your connection this evening and build on it.
Go beyond the classroom.
That's exactly it. Let's start now.
Put some babies together, or students.
Some of those conversations that we had earlier in the presentation about the diversity, what your own personal experience might have been and how it impacts your learning space. And of course, the third question there about the presentation and specifically the Harmony site, what you think you might be able to use, or how maybe what you've seen tonight, how it might change your thinking. The questions are available to you in the note catcher if you downloaded it. If you haven't, we always, as you can see, take a quick picture with your phone. And as you go into the breakout rooms, you can use that to frame your conversations. And then, of course, we'll come back and answer any questions.
So let's take about 3 or 4 minutes. I know we're coming to the end of our time, but I'd sure love to hear what other folks are thinking during the presentation. Really enjoying it.
Well, thank you everyone for, I'm so sorry that you didn't have more time in the breakout rooms. I thought there was more at the end, and hopefully you all have something to take away, and we'll be available to anyone. So we'll hand it back to you, Margaret.
Well, Melissa and Michael, I only got to know the folks in my breakout session for a few moments, and I felt like we were giving each other a hug the whole time. To everybody in New York and everywhere where it's later in the day, oh my gosh, you have had a long day today, but I know you're all going to join me in saying we ended this conference with the biggest gift, hearing the two of you share strategies we're going to use. As the content manager for Harmony, you know I'm going to be talking to you because I love what you've shared. We're working on a Harmony refresh, and you have so many ideas that I can see putting in our equity and diversity unit. So we thank you, everybody. You know, everything will be available for you. This presentation will go to YouTube. You'll be hearing an announcement about that. So excited to see that. Again, it's been a wonderful conference. I hope everybody has enjoyed their time. Let's, if you have a shout out for our two awesome presenters, please let them know. Turn on your mic and let them know how much you appreciate it.
Great job, you guys. Great job. Awesome.
Yes,
awesome.
totally.
We need more educators like you. Awesome. I hope it goes worldwide.
Absolutely. You guys are completely outstanding. I was in tears the entire time. You guys are incredible. Please keep up the good work. You guys are just one step at a time, changing this world for the better. Thank you so much.
And if we plant one seed, the trees will grow. So continue to plant.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Beautiful. I mean, it's wonderful, wonderful. We look forward to hearing more from you both in the future. And I know we're all walking away with things we're going to try out. Thank you so much again. Until our paths meet again, and they will.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.